Hey there, fellow city builders, Kodiak the Kodiak here, and today I have some incredible news for all you Cities Skylines enthusiasts. The developers of Cities Skylines 2, Colossal Order, have just dropped their latest dev diary titled Public and Cargo Transportation, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. In this information-packed video, we'll be diving deep into the world of public and cargo transportation. The developers have also introduced an exciting new feature called Development Points, which adds a whole new layer of strategic decision-making to our cities. We'll explore the innovative ways that we can connect different modes of transit, from buses to trains, cargo ships, and airplanes. The possibilities are endless, and developers have truly pushed the boundaries of what Cities Skylines has to offer in transportation simulation. With the introduction of development points, you'll have even more control over the growth and expansion of your city. Unlock transportation options in the order you choose. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you won't miss any future breakdowns of all the exciting dev insights and dev diaries. And of course, leave a comment down below sharing your thoughts and transportation strategies for Cities Skylines 2. Alright, my fellow city builders, it's time to get out there and explore the exciting world of public and cargo transportation. Let's unlock the full potential of our cities using public transportation and cargo transportation and create the ultimate urban utopia in Cities Skylines 2. Okay, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that today we're going to look at the video first, then the dev diary. In the dev diary itself, it does say that you should watch the video first. I've already watched it and read through it, so not a problem. I think that's actually the best course of action here. And then secondly, VLCs being very low resolution-y. I don't know what the problem is. I've tried a bunch of different solutions. Nothing's working. So if you guys see some stuff that doesn't look as crystal clear as it might in the actual dev diary, that's the reason why. So anyways, let's get started.
Transport networks set the rhythm of life in your city. As they move people and cargo, they can create harmony and discord.
Look at the reflections on the top of the train here. And this is a pretty common trend across all metal in the game, is that the reflections have been very clean on them. And I wonder if that is going to be a setting that dramatically affects performance. Because that, I mean, reflections can be somewhat daunting for your computer. So especially on lower end systems, I wonder how the game will look and run with these reflections on, or if you can even toggle them on or off. Now, I know they said that in a previous dev diary that there was a performance increase across the board by utilizing all the cores of the CPU, but I don't know. Every week, I'm just very blown away by the actual visuals of the game, and I wonder how far down you can actually turn in. So I did forget to mention that the train's tunnels actually are fully rendered. As far as I know, I believe they announced it previously as well, but the train tunnels are actually fully rendered as well, which is very cool.
This finely tuned orchestra of ships, vehicles, planes, and trains is yours to conduct. To create a thriving metropolis.
So really nice wide shot of the city here. We have this round building here that kind of looks like that one, what is it, hotel in Chicago. This makes me wonder, is there real buildings in Cities 2 that you can place? Much like how if you pre-order the game, you can get the San Francisco packs and all that stuff. I wonder if there's other real buildings. I wonder if this is modeled after that hotel. And you can see some other really unique skyscrapers in the background here as well. So, and there's really a lot of variety in these skyscrapers too. I don't see a lot of repeat buildings. There's these two that look like they're repeats, but the rest of these taller ones, I don't see a lot of duplicates at face value. So I wonder if this is a specialized building. I wonder if all of the big tall skyscrapers are specialized building. Something to keep in mind as we keep watching this.
Maintain a steady beat to keep your city in motion. You build a city from scratch in Cities Skylines 2. No public transport, no tracks, no runways. Creating these and other transportation networks is a crucial first step. After that, improving and integrating them paves the way for expansion. When you establish your city, citizens can take the bus or a taxi to get where they're going.
Okay.
These are the first transport options you'll unlock. They're reliable, cheap.
So the first two buildings that you're going to be able to place for public transit are going to be, as they just said, buses and taxis. No surprise here. I'm not surprised. That's pretty much how it is in Cities 1, if I remember correctly. You just get those two first. Taxis seem like they're going to play a little bit more of a prevalent role in this game, especially because you don't have to build taxi stands, which is absolutely brutal. So I think that this will be a much better system for taxis, especially in the early game. So over here we have the taxi depot, a garage and repair workshop for taxis. Also houses a small dispatch office, can be upgraded with an extra garage, a dispatch center, and electric taxis. And over here we have a bunch of different options. It does seem like the taxi depot is under the bus tab. I find that very interesting. I mean, there's really not a lot to do with taxis, I guess, unless you want to put the taxi stands. Now, based on the fact that what we're going to look at here in a second with the bus pickup locations, based on that, if we look at these little icons for the taxis, to me, I think we still do have taxi stands, but they're going to be on the sidewalk level, and you're going to see that here in a second with the buses, and why I think that. Over here, we have just the transportation view. We've seen this before. It kind of goes over cargo as well and how much we're actually getting per month and a bunch of other stuff. But you can see here, it's 100,000 credits just to build the taxi depot. Obviously, the city's got a ton of money, but still important to look at nonetheless. There's also a theme for the taxi stand, which is very interesting as well. So I'm going to scrub back and see if the bus station had anything cool on it. If it didn't, the video is just going to kind of keep playing from right here.
And easy to route here, there, and everywhere.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about with why I think that taxi stands are potentially just going to be on sidewalks. Because if we look right here, there's 3 bus shelters. And the first time when I first watched the video, I was like, oh, I wonder if you like have to place shelters and then you can build lines off of that. Now, you can build lines anywhere, but if you build lines on a shelter, I believe it probably improves happiness. And you get these little icons here. Now, I don't know the difference between this icon and this icon, because clearly these are shelters, but they line up with this icon. So I don't know if this is like you can predetermine spots and then like as you go through it, like allows you to select them or something. Or if this is just generic bus line, because then there's this bus line over here. I'm really not too sure what each one of these icons means yet. But what I do know is that there's 2 icons for buses. There's 2 icons for taxis. I don't know the difference between them. And they're on the sidewalk, and they're clearly not taking up space on the side of the road like taxis used to. So obviously this isn't the taxi, but because they're the same symbols, because they're on the sidewalk, I'm going to jump to the safe assumption that taxis no longer take up actual space on the side of the road, which is great. That's a huge improvement for taxis and actually makes them a little bit more reasonable in terms of public transit for our cities. So anyways, let's keep going.
Traffic conditions are their Achilles heel.
It does also tell you the address of these bus stops, which is pretty cool. Bus line 10, just the other UI stuff.
It's no big deal in a new metropolis, but it is for a growing city. That's when you'll level up your
Oh, look at those reflections. Look at those reflections on that train. Gosh.
transport. Think trains, trams, and subways.
That car was just trying to get run over by the tram.
Each one has pros and cons. They're all expensive to build and complicated, requiring.
So they're all expensive to build. So when I first watched it, I immediately thought, okay, does that mean that transit's going to be a lot more expensive and harder to build than it was in Cities 1? Because I feel like it was pretty easy to like start implementing public transit in Cities 1. So it's actually going to be like a task to work towards in Cities 2. I'm not sure. Look at this. You got a hospital in the background here. We got this cargo train coming through.
Depots, tracks, and stops where passengers can buy tickets and get on and off. That means they can't offer the far-reaching service of a bus line.
So this is just a bus line. We've already seen the line view before, but I'll just pause for a second and just go over it really quickly. So we have the line here. I believe these squares are the buses. This blue one is selected, so that's the one we have. Doesn't look like there's any passengers on it. There's not. This one just picked up 4 passengers, so it's like 4 out of 6 filled, so 2/3 filled, maybe. I don't really know what the dots mean. That's a new thing I haven't seen yet. Public transport vehicle en route. Owner, bus depot. 309 Hamilton Street is where it's going to. As we know, there's addresses for everything now. And then the line that we're actually on, the passengers.
Or the door-to-door service of a taxi. On the other hand, they're more efficient. Not least because they carry more people and cargo and reduce road congestion.
So trams are more efficient. We're seeing some little lines over here, just some more info about the trams. We've already seen these in previous dev diaries. I encourage you to go back and watch my other ones, but we've gone in complete deep dives on as well. So
let's start with subways. They're fast, high.
I am now. I will say this: I'm a little disappointed in subways. I am a little disappointed in subways because they are still these off street structures that are completely independent. Now, I don't know if there's like side of road ones, but I mean, if you walk around some cities here in the United States, like Chicago, for example, some of the subway stations are literally just off the sidewalk. They don't take up space where the buildings go. They're literally just off the sidewalk. You just walk down a stairwell and boom, you're at the subway station. I do kind of, granted, Metro is like the most effective way to transport people in City Skylines. Like, I almost feel like it's cheating, so I try to avoid using it as much as possible in my cities. Now, obviously, I'll use it in cities too until I figure that out for myself. But it does feel like it makes sense, I guess, that it takes up some space on the side of the road. Now, granted, it's like not that much space in your city, but it needs something to almost nerf it, I guess, because it's so good. It's such a good public transit option. It's so efficient if you place them right to move people back and forth. I do just wish that they had the street side walk down, upgrade the street, just like we do with everything else, and you can walk down in the subway from there instead of placing it on the side. Maybe that'll come with a mod one day, but I was a little disappointed when I saw this because I was really hoping for that kind of an option for subway. But it does look like they have a food upgrade, so like maybe this lot can be upgraded into some kind of park that has a restaurant. Pretty cool. Tells you how efficient it is. Nothing else really to look at here.
High capacity, and they take up very little room when they're underground. If they operate above ground, you can run them on elevated tracks so they don't get tangled up with road traffic. Trams. They're more flexible than trains, so you can more easily add lines to service new and expanded neighborhoods.
So you can see here this tram stop, obviously in the middle of the street. We can see a taxi over here. There is, I don't know what this symbol is above the tram, but there obviously is a symbol above this tram. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it's for. They're coming up to the station. Does it mean that it's full? Does it mean that they're awaiting passengers? I'm very curious to know. We don't have any of the cars selected, but it looks like this one that's approaching the station and this one look very full. So is that a sign that, hey, this stop, I'm not gonna be able to pick up everybody? Something to think about.
Build tram tracks on existing roads.
I do love the tram upgrading.
Tracks if that's
I
the
love
best way
that.
to keep
Yeah.
the hustle and bustle dialed up. Trains carry loads of people too, and not just suburbanites. They can bring visitors from outside your city in large numbers. Trains play
Outside
another
connection?
critical role as cargo transport.
Look at that. Look at all these connections too. So like I don't know how modular all of these buildings are going to be, but like clearly they I think for the video they probably destroyed what was already here that $2.20 made and then just replaced it so the tracks lined up. But if we look at this, there is a ton of track connections, and I wonder how modular this building actually is in terms of all of these connections. Can we actually connect to every single one of these connection points? Or will it say, no, you can't build in here because it's a building. You can only grab these outside ones. I'm very curious to know. But down here, we also get a look at, before we go any further, all the different options for trains. So we have single one-way, two. This is passenger. This is cargo. I don't know what the differences are between these three. I believe that this is just a distribution warehouse. This is a warehouse of some kind. I don't know if this is. I think. Oh, I do know what this is. This is the maintenance depot for trains. So all public transit options now need to be maintained. That includes trains. So buses, trains, all of them have to go back and get maintenance every once in a while, and then they can come back out. Every single one, except for I think it's planes and boats don't. Could be wrong, but trains do. So this is the maintenance depot. This is the passenger station, I think, and that was what we saw on the previous screen was the maintenance depot. And then this is the cargo hub. So it's the cargo train terminal, a large warehouse where cargo trains unload cargo from trucks and can be upgraded with storage warehouse and extra tracks, upkeep, cargo storage. We'll keep playing before I explain cargo storage.
Build a cargo train terminal, and you build a hub where businesses can receive, ship, and store incoming and outgoing goods.
So the store is really important. They really mentioned quite a bit about goods storage. They didn't go into detail about what it is, but they brought it up a couple times. They brought it up in the dev diary as well. You will have to store goods, much like in the Industries DLC for Cities Skylines 1, you could store commercial goods or any other goods that your factories produce. That will clearly be a thing in Cities 2. But it will be obviously in the base game, and the cargo depot acts as like one of those storage warehouses as well. So I don't know how in-depth actual storage will be in the game, but you can do that at the cargo hub. So there will be goods storage.
Water transportation is another option for passenger travel and moving cargo. It's another high-capacity network, though water transport's real potential lies in imports and exports. You see, cargo ships might be slower than trains, but these bad boys can carry 1,000 tons of stuff to and from your city. Yeah.
Which is a lot if you look at how many tons this city is already currently transferring via train. That's a lot.
That's right.
As somebody who doesn't know how much 1,000 tons of cargo actually is, that's a lot compared to what the trains were hauling in this game.
You can trade with other cities, so you'll
Which
need
we know
somewhere to
from
house all the
previously.
goods and resources coming and going. Easy. Like cargo train terminals, cargo harbors double as cargo storage facilities.
And you can upgrade them to have rail connections.
Like all of the other networks, air transportation has drawbacks. Planes carry fewer passengers and less cargo than ships and trains. Airports are also astronomically expensive and have the footprint of a small town. However, air transport has a pretty irresistible advantage: speed. Plus, planes won't add to road congestion. They don't follow a rigid track, and they make outside connections incredibly easy.
I'm going to pause now. One thing I am fairly confident on is that airports are not as modular as the airports DLC. However, there is cargo airports in the base game now, which I don't know if there really even was before. I've been playing with the airports DLC long enough now that I kind of forgot. But you can upgrade to have cargo come into the airport now. There's an international airport, which I think is the one that we're actually looking at. That's I think the biggest airport that you can build in the base game, which is a little disappointing for all of our plane fanatics out there. But you do now also have to build lines. You have to manually connect lines for your airports. Say this goes to this outside plane connection, and this goes to this outside plane connection. So I hope that actually helps with plane pathing, because in Cities 1, you'd have a plane take off and then they do an instant U-turn because the connection point's actually behind the airport. And so I hope that that's kind of at least alleviated.
The transport mix in your city will become complex and
look at all of the buses in this view. Look at all of the buses in this view. That's a lot of buses. Over here, as I was saying before, like one cargo ship can carry 1 ton or 1,000 tons of goods. You can see here that they have 2 trains and they're carrying less than 2,000. So I don't know how much that actually ends up becoming, but it's a lot. It's a lot for the boats to carry. So obviously trains you can just put more cars on or whatever, but still that's a lot. It's a lot for boat traffic. I'm excited to use boat cargo. And over here we can also kind of see all of the train lines coming from the train maintenance hub over here, and then you have the cargo station down over here. And then my assumption is that this train line comes all the way out over here, and then it goes to the harbor, which you can kind of see under this icon over here. So that's kind of the cargo system that they have set up here, and it seems really efficient, and it all works together really well. So, and it looks good.
Intricate. Use the transportation overview.
So when they clicked on the airport, some icons popped up that we'll go back and look at, but this will be our first look at the, we've already seen the public transport view several times, but this will be our first look at the cargo transport view.
To review passenger and cargo transportation.
So cargo transport view is not very different. We did not get a close-up look at any of the lines, so I don't know if the UI is just not ready to show off yet or what, but did not get a close detailed look at the actual individual line for cargo, so we're not going to get any of that information today. However, it does say, you have the cargo railway route 1, the length of the line, how many stops it has, the number of trains, how much cargo is being transferred. So if you notice now, if you actually look at the route and how much cargo is being transferred, there is a lot less cargo being transferred than the 1,000 that the boats carry. Now, granted, it does say 1% usage. So how much can trains actually haul? How much can they actually haul? And how much is this? How much, what's the scalability for what our city's actually going to be using and consuming? I'm starting to already think about efficiency, but this is pretty much all we get in terms of that. I'm going to rewind a little bit and see if we can get a glimpse at some of those icons that we saw at the airport.
Intricate.
So they're clicking the transport overview. That's what this button is down here in the bottom right. And we've clicked on the airport now, and we have a look. So we can actually see that there are hangars here, right? We have, I believe this is a maintenance terminal, or this is just a different terminal building. It's an expansion terminal, and the person expanded, or it's the cargo, which is what makes the most sense to me, because you have the train lines over here, and that looks like the freight train icon. So train comes in through here, as we've looked at the maintenance buildings way over here. Train comes through, comes to the cargo airport. You actually have to pick which terminal and which gate the planes go to, which is pretty interesting. And then you have all of these connecting lines going out in different directions for different routes. So that's pretty cool. We have that symbol again with the 3 people. I don't know what that means, but it's clear that that's what all of this stuff is. So these are different terminals. This is the cargo one, and here's where planes can come in and out.
Transportation overview to review passenger and cargo transportation networks separately. Filter again by transport type to see high-level details about individual lines and toggle them on or off. Use the transportation info view to understand the impact of.
So this is our ship line. Again, this is a passenger ship. We did not get to see any cargo ships. I was a little disappointed, but this is a passenger ship icon. You can adjust the vehicles. It's really not too much different, but just we haven't seen the ship thing yet, so I figured I would pause.
Networks. Plan and manage transportation networks carefully to find the right tempo for the movement of people and cargo. Conduct it perfectly, and every citizen, trader, and tourist will march your city toward greatness.
We got a nice view of this unique building that we keep seeing in the trailer all the time. It looks really nice, whatever it is. It looks like a science or medical complex of some kind. We have the medical symbol up here, so I'm definitely guessing it's a hospital. I didn't notice that until just now. I was thinking that it was maybe like an education building, but now that I see that, definitely a hospital. So, and there's helipads down here in the bottom right. Very cool. And that's pretty much the end of the video. So we're going to start moving into the dev diary itself. Honestly, the video had a lot of content. It did. I wish it showed more, and there are some things that are a little troubling and a little disappointing. So I hope that those things aren't overbearing or glaring. Or let me know down in the comments if you actually didn't think any of the things I thought were a little troubling, like maybe the subway station wasn't really that bad. Because, it only is only taken up, 4 squares on the side of the road. It's not really that big a deal. So let me know down in the comments, and we'll move on to the next section with the actual dev diary itself, which has a ton more information as well. And before I get into the dev diary itself written down, I just want to let you guys know, halfway point, thank you guys for sticking around. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. If there's any other kind of video you guys want to see on the channel, I'm looking to add one more video maybe per week to the actual channel itself. You go over to the community tab on my YouTube. I had a whole post talking about how I'm looking for ideas. I'm looking for ideas for that 3rd video. Is it a map? Do you guys want map features from the workshop? Like maybe Teddy Radco's new map or something like that? Or would you guys like tutorials on how to use certain mods like Skive or anything else? What do you think the Cities Skylines community is kind of missing in terms of content? Let me know down in the comments below. And I just want to let you guys know this is not sponsored necessarily, but I am now a Humble partner with the Humble Bundle. If you guys would like to purchase your pre-purchase for Cities Skylines 2 or any other game, and you want to help support me as well so I get some kickback on any of the purchases, you can use my referral link down below, and then you guys can also allocate some of those funds on purchases that you make towards a charity that I choose. Right now, I think it's the American Suicide and Prevention Foundation or something like that. So you guys can also allocate some of the funds from that purchase to a charity as well, which is really awesome and great. Or you can allocate some of the funds to me and help support me as well. So I just want to let you guys know about that before we move into the dev diary. So let's jump right in. So the first thing I want to point out is something that I might have said in the actual video recording. I don't even remember now, but transportation also includes cargo transport, where companies order resources through delivery trucks and vans. To support the local industries and commercial companies, you can set up cargo lines using trains, ships, and airports that, in conjunction with trucks, keep the industry's wheels turning. So we actually have to make cargo lines. So again, this is a common trend that I've been mentioning in the past videos, that there is going to be a lot more micromanagement in cities too. And I was waiting for this dev diary to kind of confirm some of that as well. They didn't talk about it as much as I thought, but there is definitely going to be some micromanagement in terms of managing cargo resources. It does seem a little simple. It seems like they'll kind of order what they need and do it themselves, but you have to draw the lines, which is another step that we did not have in Cities Skylines 1. Then they go through the public transportation types, where they talk about buses. There's really not too much to talk about with buses, other than that you can upgrade the bus depot and go straight to electric buses, much like how we had the biofuel buses in the Green Cities DLC for Cities Skylines 1. And then you can upgrade them to the electric buses, but you need the upgraded depot in order to maintain them. In addition, you can also do intercity buses, which is interesting. I don't know how you'd have to draw the lines, but you do need an upgraded bus depot in order to have them come in. Maybe they come into the bus depot and that's just the big station for it. Unsure, but that is a thing. And then it says here, place either a bus stop sign or a shelter on a road to determine where buses should pick up and drop off passengers. So I wonder if you have to go through and put down all the shelters first, then draw the line, or if you can just draw the line anywhere. That wasn't made clear in the video, and it's not made clear here. So that's something I'm looking forward to finding out more about. They do talk about taxis a little bit here. They do say that in the early game, taxis will also bring new citizens to the city who don't have their own personal vehicle. So much like how in Cities Skylines 1, when you get that move-in wave, right? I wonder if they'll come in maybe by taxi if they don't have a car, which also means that not every citizen will have a car. I didn't expect that with how they've been kind of wording things, that you need to worry about parking and that determines how people are going to get from point A to point B. But it seems like some people just will not have a car and they will have to take a taxi if the public transit options are not accessible for them. So I find this very interesting, for sure. It's a cool, good mechanic. It's a realistic one as well. So it's something that you're gonna have to think about when you're planning out your cities, that every section needs to be connected somehow by public transit, because not everyone's going to have cars. And one of those public transit options is gonna have to be taxis, because you're just not gonna be able to meet everybody's needs effectively. Here they begin to talk about trains. The trains carry a large amount of passengers and cargo, while their infrastructure size makes them better suited for intercity transport. So they're really kind of stressing hey, you should probably just use trains for out of city connections, but they said can be used locally as well. So we can still do our local city train stations where we can transport people from one side to the other, which is very cool. Trains naturally require tracks to run on, and building train infrastructure is a high initial expense due to their transport capacities. They more than make up for the initial cost over time. So they claim that they will make you money back, which is cool. Great. Trains are effective modes of transport in Cities Skylines 2, and to create train lines, you need to first build a rail yard, which sends out and maintains your trains. So your trains get sent out from there, and they come back to get maintained there. Train infrastructure allows you to create two-way and double tracks, as well as one-way train tracks, elevated tracks, bridges, tunnels, and cut and fill tracks running lower than ground level. So we'll be able to build pretty much all the same options that we can do for roads with train tracks. Trains and other rail transports are able to drive backwards and forwards, and thus they can utilize switches created by combining two-way and double train track stations also feature pre-built tracks which create switches automatically when trains are connected to them. So a lot more in advanced features for train traffic in Cities Skylines 2, which is very nice. A big fan of them just being able to go backwards and forwards. Obviously we could do that in Cities 1, but it's good to see that that's making a return, and they're kind of stressing it more with switches. So train stations can be upgraded to have additional platforms too, so you can make the train stations bigger. And then they begin to talk about trams. They do start talking about it in the sense that tram tracks can utilize already built roads by adding them to the tram tracks, using the replaced or the tram tracks to the actual roads with the replace tool, or the tracks can be built separately running on terrain and thus bypassing traffic altogether. So you have a lot of flexibility in trams. I have a feeling that trams are going to be probably one of the more useful transit options in the game because of how much flexibility it actually has in terms of being built on the roads. It can act as a bus kind of, but it does take up that lane on the road, so it's something you're going to have to plan for as well. Much like Cities 1, you have to build a tram depot. No surprises there. I would have been surprised, especially if the rail depot has to have a maintenance depot. There's obviously going to be one for the trams. Trams can be built in the same manner as roads and train tracks. They feature one-way tracks and double tram tracks, and can be built as elevated tracks, bridges, and cut and fill tracks and tunnels. So something important to note is that, let's read those options again, right? So they can be built as elevated tracks, bridges, cut and fill tracks, and tunnels. Okay. What did they say for trains? They can be built as elevated tracks, bridges, tunnels, cut and fill tracks running lower than ground level. So we have all the same options, but trains have to be running lower than ground level in order to use the cut and fill tool. They can't be running above ground level, which I find very interesting, at least that they didn't specify it. Maybe it was just a miswording and they or they were specifying it. So I wonder how that's actually going to work, because I'm still not like the most in tune with how that cut and fill mechanic's going to work. I know we've noticed that you can build retaining walls and stuff with it, but still not too sure what that actually is going to entail. The next thing is the subway, which is a fast, high-capacity local transit option. The initial investment in the rapid transit infrastructure is high, but due to its speed, it is a popular transport choice for many citizens who value their time when making pathfinding calculations. So when they specify value their time, that's adults. The adults are the ones that value their time the most. Adults are probably going to be the ones that utilize the subway a lot more than, let's say, youth or senior sims. The thing is that if you keep your transit low enough in price, I'm sure teens will also use them, because cost is the lowest pathfinding choice for, or highest, I guess, pathfinding choice for teenagers. So keep it low, keep it fast. Those two groups will use it a lot, and then seniors will probably take a different option. So while the subway can be built above ground, even on elevated tracks, its biggest draw is how little room it takes up when built underground. True. This is very true. The underground stop entrance itself are quite compact. They fit nicely between other buildings without taking much space. Again, I was really disappointed that we don't get sidewalk train station entrances that can just be upgraded from the road, but I digress. They really don't take up that much space, and they are so good that I think that's a fair drawback. It's a fair drawback. An underground subway station doesn't require much space and can easily fit between buildings. Right here, as you can see. Similar to trains, the subways require a subway yard to supply trains for the lines. Subways use exclusive tracks, and passengers can access the train from underground and overground stations. So we also have to maintain our subway. So pretty much any kind of land transport, just assume that there's going to be a maintenance station for it. Subways use exclusive tracks, and passengers can access the trains from underground and overground stations. Like any other types of rail, you can build double subway tracks and one-way tracks with options for elevated and cut and fill, as well as bridges and tunnels. So it's just basically another rail type. Obviously, it is a rail type, but it does seem to me like subway will still be the most efficient and like actually the best one to build, especially in higher density sections of your city. Then they go into water transportation. Features both passenger and cargo options. Ships can transport a high number of passengers both inside your city and to and from your outside connections. So there is ferries back in Cities Skylines 2. Not a big fan of the ferries. In Cities 1, it just kind of seemed like kind of useless. The boats weren't very high capacity. So as long as the boats are high capacity, maybe ferries will be a lot more useful at getting people to and from destinations. And obviously they can run to outside connections, which is great. Getting new people into your city, having multiple different ways to do it can help diversify the traffic actually coming into your city. Intercity waters transport requires access to the map's edge by seaway and connecting the harbor to these seaways. Passenger harbor is a great addition to any waterfront city. Over here that's what this building was, which we noted in one of the older videos, was that I was like, wow, this building looks really cool. Well, it was the harbor. So an important thing to know about airports is that there is going to be a height capacity for buildings around the airport to make it a little bit more realistic, right? If you've played with the airports DLC or any of the planes in Cities Skylines 1, they can just fly straight through buildings if you place tall enough buildings next to the airport. In Cities Skylines 2, there will be a height restriction for buildings near airports. It says right here, when placing an airport, you can see the projected landing and takeoff zones at the ends of the building, giving you an approximation of where limitations to zoned building heights are applied. So it'll automatically apply limitations to the actual heights of the buildings. So pretty cool, pretty realistic as well. I like that. I like that addition to the game. Airports limit the height of buildings in the landing and takeoff zones to avoid collisions. Transport lines don't require any additional infrastructure other than the airports themselves. The airports are connected to the outside connections with a line tool, and the airplanes start traveling on the lines once they are created. So you still have to draw the lines. I find that very interesting. That's definitely something I didn't expect to have to do. Here they begin to talk about some cargo types. In addition to delivery trucks and vans, cargo trains are the backbone resource of transportation on land. So they do seem like, you know, there's a lot of cities that I've built in Cities Skylines 1 where I didn't build a cargo train station, but it seems like in this game, you're definitely going to want to do that. If they're specifying it in the dev diary like that, I think it's going to be potentially even essential. So once a cargo train terminal is built, companies can use it as a storage point for incoming and outgoing cargo. I think the storage is also another great option for your city. It's something you're going to have to be mindful of. Even with no cargo lines, companies ordering resources can use the station storage facilities to drop off and pick up resources and goods. You don't even need to use the import and export function of it. The facility, and pick up resources and goods, the facility working like a distribution center. To start receiving cargo trains, you will need to set up a cargo train line similar to how passenger train lines work. So again, we are going to have to be drawing these cargo lines to and from connection points. Trains then haul resources to outside connections in the terminal where they are stored until local delivery trucks will pick them up for distribution in the city. Similarly, companies send their goods to the terminal as it is cheaper and faster to ship goods on trains than to haul them to outside connections by trucks. So they will prioritize the train station as well, which is great. Big fan of that as well. So it gets cars off your freeways, well, unless your freeway takes it to the cargo train station, but you know, it doesn't clog up as much of your actual road networks and sends them all here and clogs it up out front. So cargo ships can carry huge amounts of cargo, 1,000 tons. So again, they're stressing the amount of how much cargo ships can actually haul, which is 1,000 tons. That's a half ton of tons. They are slower than trains, but they are not held back by the high traffic on the roads. Cargo harbors can also store resources and goods to be further distributed, similar to cargo train terminals. Cargo harbors also generate a lot of traffic as delivery vehicles offload the cargo ships and carry the resources into the city. Furthermore, the cargo harbor can be enhanced with a railway connection. This is something I brought up when we were watching the video, allowing trains to transport cargo goods directly to and from the harbor. So you can basically have the harbor be maybe even your main connection point for imports, and then have rail lines take it to other points in the city, and then that way you have your cargo traffic kind of distributed a little bit better. Air cargo transport becomes available when the airport is upgraded with cargo terminal, which adds an additional terminal exclusively for cargo transport, which is what we saw on the right of the building, where cargo planes can pick up and offload their cargo. Compared to cargo trains and ships, cargo airplanes are relatively low capacity, but they are the fastest option available and are not impacted by the traffic of the city or reliant on available waterways. So this is pretty nice. I mean, I like that that's included in the base game. That we can just have like 3 different cargo import options alongside cars, so 4 really. So pretty nice to be able to diversify. all of that stuff. So new gameplay with transportation lines. City Skylines, only buses and taxis and trams had depots. Trains and subway stations spawned directly from the stations once the line was created. In City Skylines 2, each land-based public transportation type has a depot or a yard where vehicles are spawned and where their maintenance takes place. Each depot can support a predetermined number of vehicles, and this can be extended with suitable building upgrades. The line tool functionality has been standardized to provide more simple gameplay loop between the different transportation options, including both passenger and cargo transport. And then they give this little I don't know, arrow chart. I don't know, this is not even a chart, but they basically just kind of explain transportation gameplay basics. You get the depot, then you get the stops and stations, then you get the tracks and roads, and then you can create the lines. So depot, stops and stations, tracks, lines. Pretty easy, pretty simple, makes one bum bum bum, makes sense. Nothing to see here. Buses traditionally use pre-existing road networks where stops are placed, but you can also create roads exclusively for public transport vehicles such as buses, as well as priority lanes on existing roads. Once the stops and stations have been placed, connected with roads and tracks, you can create transportation lines between the stops and stations. So it does seem like you have to place the stops first. Like you can't just, like how in Cities 1 you could just like click, 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 boom, done. Like now you have to place all the stops, and then you have to decide if that stop going to be for this line or is it going to be for a different line. I find that really interesting and kind of annoying, to be quite frank with you. It would just be cool if they automatically created the stops and then you could upgrade each stop to have a shelter if you wanted. But I digress. It's still cool that we can have a little bit of customizability in our stops. So in Cities Skylines 2, the line tool is more flexible when creating lines for road-based vehicles. When creating a bus line, you can set waypoints that control the route taken by the bus stop. And this is why you have to place the stops, by the way. I didn't explain that, but this is why you have to do it. So now you can basically set a waypoint and say, okay, well, there's no stops here or here on these two roads, but I don't want them going through this intersection. I want them to go down and take this road to get over to here. So now you can set a waypoint. The bus won't stop there, but it has to drive over that road segment in order to get to its next destination, which is a lot more user-friendly and adds for a lot more diversity in how you can actually build out your bus lines. Like this is going to be much more efficient. It allows you to customize your routes to actually be more realistic and just, bypass busy intersections like that. So you can have a more efficient system with this flexibility. So it is really cool. It definitely is still annoying. Don't get me wrong. But it is very cool. It's very nice. Okay, here is a big thing. This is a big thing that they're not showing because they said they're going to talk about it in another dev diary, but this is freaking huge. In City Skylines, each transportation option was unlocked by reaching different population milestones. As we know, if we've played City Skylines 1, this resulted in similarly but built cities, as each option was always unlocked at the same time. So you always unlocked trams and then trains and then airports and whatever. I don't know the actual structure for it, but it was kind of in that order, right? It was always in that structure, regardless of players need to use them or not. In Cities Skylines 2, with the exception of buses and taxis, which will unlock with milestone progression, each transportation type is unlocked using development points. In the development tree, a skill tree for transportations. Cities Skylines 2 is an RPG. More on development points later. Development diary. You can select which types of transportation your city needs and unlock those to serve your vision of the greatest city on Earth. I hope that means that we can still get all the transportation types in our cities. I would assume so. It'd be crazy if you couldn't. But wow, the customizability and the flexibility of like being able to build airports well before building rail is very interesting to me. I like the concept of it. I just find it very strange that we're gonna have like a tech tree basically in City Skylines 2. I just did not expect that. Like, it's not like out of the realm of simulation games to have like little tech trees like that, right? Like, because this is a simulation strategy kind of game, right? It's not out of the realm of possibility to have a tech tree. It's just I did not expect to have a skill tree in Cities 2. So this is very cool and interesting. All right, so then we go move on from that big news to the transportation overview. The transportation info view gathers all the pertinent information for both your passengers and cargo traffic. We've seen the view. We did not get a look at what the cargo view necessarily looks like. We only got a look at the line overviews, but not the actual detailed view. So I'm very interested to see what that ends up looking like, but I digress. So we heard about which age group kind of prioritizes which type of pathfinding costs, for example, time, money, comfort. So for example, seniors really like comfort, whereas teens prioritize money because they don't have a lot, right? Ticket prices affect citizens' pathfinding calculations. They're going to go a little in depth here about the general pathfinding. So obviously they prioritize one thing or the other, but there is like a core fundamental pathfinding system in the game that is obviously swayed by age groups, but this is the core aspect of it. Citizens weigh time, travel comfort, and money as they choose their travel options. And while time and comfort are important aspects of those calculations, money can sway them between public transport and private vehicle usage. So the cost of your public transport seems to be very important in determining whether or not anybody will take it, let alone youth. Now, because we know that like parking, they'll walk further, right? But public transit seems to be maybe balanced a little different. So that's very interesting to me. It does say here that shortening passenger wait times at stops and stations will affect their pathfinding calculations as well. So people obviously don't like to wait very long. So obviously having a shorter wait time, so by adding more vehicles to the actual transit route, like let's say trams, adding more trams to the transit line is a good thing in helping keep people as efficient as possible on the line, as long as it doesn't cause backups. And that's pretty much it for the video. Or with the video and the dev diary today. Lots of good information on cargo. Some of it good, some of it really good, some of it very interesting, and one or two things that I was a little disappointed in, but nothing too major. Nothing that makes me go, wow, this game's gonna be bad. This game's still looking great so far. And let me know what you guys think down below. Is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you guys are interested in? Is there anything that you guys didn't like in this updated video? Because as we're getting more and more information, there's a lot more micromanagement going on, and is that something that you guys are ready for? Let me know down in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys on Thursday for the development insight, which has been chock full of information, so please stick around for those. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you guys on Thursday.